Hey guys, Joseph here. I wanted to make a recording to just kind of help you get started with R for our project. So, um, first things first, you will want to go to rproject.org, download R, and yeah, it doesn't matter which mirror you pick. I usually just pick UC Berkeley just because I'm from that area. So you'll want to download R first, and then you'll want to download RStudio, which is it's an IDE for R, and it's really good. Um, I don't know anybody who uses R without using RStudio or some other IDE like that for R. So rstudio.com, and you just go to download, and you get the free version, free desktop version. So that's what you'll need for setup. And there's one other little thing. This is RStudio. I've been using it for a little while now, and so this is where you write your code right in this window, and this is the console, which you'll be using quite a bit too. So the first thing you're going to want to do for this particular project is install a library called Tidyverse. Tidyverse has it's a collection of other libraries that are really good, make data visualization and manipulation a lot easier. So what you do is you say install packages, quotation mark, tidyverse, like that. Now I've already done this, so I'm not going to do it, but that's what you do. And it's going to install it in your R installation. And then you're going to write your script. So I have my script saved here. I just called it exploration.r. Uh, put it in my group project folder. And yeah, that's all. So, and I made sure to put the data in the same file as the script, just to make it easier to get to that data. So we're gonna start tidyverse by typing library tidyverse, no quotation marks here. And when you run this, it's gonna load the tidyverse. So then, um, once that's loaded, we're gonna do we'll save a variable here. Customer data is what I'll call it. Customer data, and I'm gonna say this arrow hyphen thing just means it's like the equal sign. It's like saying, let's say that the customer data equals 6. So now you can run this script. This is now a script. It has two lines of code in it, and you can run it with Control Shift Enter. That runs the whole thing, or you can run one line at a time, which is kind of the same as typing the line here, actually. So I'm just gonna run this whole script. So I get the tidyverse. So I loaded it there. You can, if you saw it fly by, library tidyverse, loaded that, and then that's the whole output. And then it ran the next line, customer data gets 6. And yeah, I say gets. It makes it easier to think. Otherwise, I'll be all confused with equals when that's not an equal sign. So customer data gets 6. It's like this 6 is going into the variable. That's why they did that symbol. And you can see here after I ran it that customer data, which shows me that it has a value of 6. So perfect, but we don't want customer data to be 6. We want it to be our data. And so to load the data, we just go to type read CSV, which is the file type of our data. And then we just type the name of the file. So it's WA. It'll probably recognize it if I press tab. Yep, recognizes it. If I run this line now, customer data is a table with 7,043 observations of 21 variables or columns. And I can see that. If I go here, type view customer data, there it is. This is the entire file. And yep, it has all the columns as far as I can tell. And there it is. So now I want to profile this thing. I want to look at the data, see what needs to be changed. So the first thing I'm gonna do, and this is something I like to do, to make sure that, because there's always, well, not always. In this case, I actually found that there aren't any, but in most data I've used, there are always entry errors, like, females. Sometimes it's lowercase f, sometimes it's capital F. Um, Again, not in this case. This data is pretty clean already, but you always want to make sure. So I'm gonna use the unique function. It's just like an Excel function. Unique customer data, and then I'm gonna look at one column specifically. So let's say I want to look at the gender column. Okay, so that means within the customer data, look at the gender column. That's what the $sign means. And if I run that, let's see. Yeah, down here I get just two values. There's nothing else. So that's good. That means we only have females and males. There are no empty rows. Otherwise, I would see NA. There's nothing with different capitalization, anything like that. So that's good. I'm going to look at a few other columns. Let's see. Instead of gender, I'm going to do senior citizen and run that. Okay, so I have values of 0 and 1 only. That's good. And I'm going to make a pretty strong assumption. I'm really confident in making the assumption that 0 means no, they're not a senior citizen, and 1 means yes, they are. Good. So let's see what else. I can do partner, run that. Yes and no, those are the only two values. That's good. That means we're not going to have any weird cases to handle there. What about contract? So there are only 3 types of contact. Again, that's a good thing. Month to month, 1 year, 2 years. Okay, let me do one last one. I'm gonna look at payment method and run that. And 1, 2, 3 different ones, 4 different ones. Electronic check, mail check, bank transfer, and credit card. Good. So no problems there. That's good. So that's what I call profiling. At least part of what profiling is. I could do more, but I'm not going to do all the columns and stuff because I want you guys to have something to suggest also. I don't want to take like all the suggestions, so I'll stop there with that. But I'm going to look at summarizing some values. Here's one way of profiling. I'm going to do another one right now. Let's summarize customer data, and I'm gonna use this weird character. They call that a pipe, and it's part of the tidyverse. And this pipe, what it does is, actually, let me show you what things would look like without it. So without it, what you'd have to do is say we want to use the group by function. You'd have to say group by parentheses, open and close, and then you'd have to say data. No, customer data. So there it is, customer data. That's the first argument, and the second argument would be, let's say you want to do something on gender, which is all fine, but you've seen in Excel how sometimes you have to nest one function inside of another function inside of another function. Let's say we wanted to summarize what I'm grouping by, so summarize, and with an S because a lot of people work on R are from like New Zealand and those places. So you can do it as Z too. It makes no difference. And so then you start nesting functions, and it becomes really hard to tell what's inside of what and where do the parentheses end and start and end. So they've made it a lot easier visually with the pipe, which you can do with Control Shift M. You're just saying let's group by actually right now. Group by, and then we'll say gender. Group by gender. And then I'm going to summarize, and I'm going to say gender count. This is confusing. Don't worry. I'll show you what it means. Gender count, and we'll say that that's equal to n function, which is just a count. So what this is doing is it's separating things. Instead of having to nest, the pipe character makes it so you can go, okay, here's my customer data, pass that to group by, not group by, and then pass the result of this to the next stage, which is summarize. So instead of things having to be inside each other, you go in a linear fashion, kind of like a factory process. It makes it easier to think about. So we have this. Let's see what it does. So if I run it, then what this is what happens. I'm looking at females and males. How many of each? This is what the n function does. Just a count of how many females, how many males. So I'm grouping my customer data by gender. That's why it separates it into female and male. And then I'm summarizing. And what summary do I want? I want the count. So that gives me how many of each. Good, good. So that's some profiling right there. Now let's try to do some tidying, some cleaning up. I'm gonna take my customer data here again, and there are some things I don't like about this data. So some things that are not deal breakers, but they're not exactly um, consistent. For example, senior citizen, 0 for no, 1 for yes. But here on partner, so this is a number, and then this is a string. Partner, yes, no, no, yes. Why not use the same method in all these columns that are just binary, either yes or no, true or false? So, and there's exactly that data type in R and all programming languages that I know of, which is a Boolean type. So let's use a Boolean instead. So let's say customer data gets, I'm going to say, again, customer data, and then so I'm gonna start here, do all this stuff with the customer data, and then at the end, everything I do is gonna get put into customer data. It's gonna go into the value of the variable. So customer data, and then I'm gonna say this is where it gets a little confusing. I hope just by looking at it, you can at least get an idea of what this all means. Mutate, which is a function that changes columns. So inside of mutate, you specify which column you want to change and what you want to change it into. So in this case, I want to make the following change. I want to say that I'm going to change the gender column, and I'm going to change it not to fixed values, but rather I'm going to say when one thing happens, I want this value. When this other thing happens, I want this other value. So case when, it's like an if statement, really. So I'm going to say gender. So when gender is equal to male, then, this squiggly line is then, I really just want M. I don't want the whole string. Those are 3 characters we can save. Um, which in big data sets is gonna make a difference. And then same thing for females. So I'm gonna do F here. V. There we go. Good. So if I run just this thing, I get that warning because I haven't updated my version of R, but really it's no big deal. So it changes, it mutates this gender column. Whenever it's at female, it just says F. Same for male. All right, awesome. So I want to do another column, change another column. So comma, and I'm going to go and change a senior citizen. And another case when. And here I want to say when the value in senior citizen is equal to 0, then don't give me 0, give me false. And I'm going to do the same thing for the value of 1, but 1 is going to be true. So I'm going to run this now and go over here, look at this. So now senior citizen is going to be either true or false. And I'm going to do the same thing for this partners. And we could go on and do it for dependents and all that, but I'll let you guys suggest those changes. So what did I say? Partner equals, so the partner column changes case when. So when the value in that partner column, it's kind of redundant, but we kind of have to do, because you could change it. You could change this as a function of a different column. No need to worry about that right now. So when the value of partner is equal to no, we're just going to say false. And then comma, when the value is equal to yes, we're going to say true. Awesome. So run this. By the way, I said line earlier. You can run one line. Really what you're running when you press Alt-Enter is one statement. So this is one statement right here. So a lot of times one statement is one line, but in this case, I'm spreading this one statement over separate lines, so it's not super long to the side. And there we go, partner. And so that this creates consistency within the data set. Okay, that's enough mutation of cells, of columns. Let's do something more interesting. Let's use ggplot, which is also with the tidyverse, comes with the tidyverse, and plot some of this data. Again, just kind of exploratory. You could call this profiling too. Customer data, you're going to pass it into ggplot. And ggplot is this library for graphics. So inside of ggplot, you say that the aesthetics of it are, we're going to start with a bar plot. So you only need an X aesthetic. An aesthetic just means the axes. So for a bar plot, you only need the X. So we're going to say contract. And we have to tell it what kind of graph I want this to be. So I'm going to say plus sign. Whenever you enter ggplot, you switch from this pipe to the plus, because what you're doing is you're adding a layer to the plot. And here you're going to say geom bar. That's the type of geom that you're going to use. Let's run this. You're going to see it appear over here. There we go. So this summarizes by month, by contract, type of contract. So month-to-month people are the most abundant. Nearly 4,000 of those people in the data set are month-to-month. 1 year, a lot less. 2 year, a little more than 1 year, but still a lot less than month-to-month. So let's do one more plot. Let's take the same one here. And now let's say I want to do, instead of contract, I want this to be, I'm going to put monthly charges in the X, and I'm going to put total charges in the Y, just to kind of graph the relationship between monthly charges and total charges, see if there is any. And then, this is not going to be a bar plot, it's going to be a scatter plot, so geom point. And if I graph that, we get this funny looking thingy, but it makes sense based on the shape of the data. So this is what I love about scatter plots, that you can literally see the shape of the data. This is what data scientists mean when they say, look at the shape of the data. This is it. I mean, and you can see it with a few different types of charts, but I particularly like the scatter plot for that. So I hope that helps you guys. And sorry this video went kind of long, but if you have any questions, let me know, and we'll be in touch soon.